Hey there, and welcome to your own personal deep dive.
Looks like we're diving into the world of phlebotomy today.
Ah, interesting.
So if you're thinking about a career change, maybe you're fascinated by those folks who can find a vein from a mile away.
Right.
We've got you covered.
We've got a ton of info from RoleCatcher to give you the inside scoop on this vital healthcare role.
It's funny how often we see the results of a phlebotomist's work
Yeah.
without even realizing it, right?
Oh, yeah,
The unsung heroes of the medical world.
totally. Okay, so let's unpack this. You know the saying, it's all in the blood.
Right.
Well, for a phlebotomist, that's not just a saying, it's their daily life.
It's true. They're literally the link between a doctor's orders
Yeah.
and what the lab needs to analyze. Precision, patient care, and really, really careful documentation. That's their world.
It's so true. So let's paint a picture here. Imagine a typical day for a phlebotomist. It could be a busy hospital, a quiet clinic, maybe a high-tech lab, or even, get this, on the go with a mobile blood drive.
Oh, wow. I never thought about the mobile piece.
Right. Variety.
Yeah.
Talk about keeping things interesting.
And think about all the tech, too. It's changing all the time.
Oh, for sure.
Remember those old finger prick tests for blood sugar?
Oh, yeah.
Now you've got those continuous glucose monitors
Right.
that barely even break the skin.
Right.
Technology's making it way easier on patients, which is huge.
Speaking of easier, get this. Robots are getting in on the phlebotomy action, too.
What?
I read about this robotic system that they're developing that uses infrared light and ultrasound to map veins and draw blood without a person even having to do it.
Get out of here.
That's amazing.
Right. Still early stages.
Okay.
Can you imagine? Fear of needles could be a thing of the past.
That would be revolutionary,
Right.
especially for folks who have those really tough veins.
Oh, totally. But even with all this cool new tech, you still need that human touch.
Oh, absolutely.
A phlebotomist needs more than just a steady hand.
It's an art, you know?
They need empathy and have to be excellent communicators
Oh, for sure.
to put their patients at ease.
You're dealing with people who are nervous, uncomfortable, maybe even scared.
Of course.
A good phlebotomist can totally change a patient's entire experience.
Oh, I bet.
You know, building that trust right before the needle even comes out. That's key.
It takes a special kind of person to do that with both skill and compassion.
Right, absolutely.
So let's talk about the actual skills you need to thrive in this kind of role.
Mm-hmm.
Role catcher highlighted communication, customer service, even knowing a bit of psychology is super important.
Which makes sense. They are dealing with people at sometimes their most vulnerable.
Yes.
And let's not forget, they've got to be fluent in medical lingo and know HIPAA regulations like the back of their hand.
That's right.
I mean, they're dealing with confidential health information. Patient privacy is a huge deal.
Oh, absolutely. Those little vials they're handling are more than just blood.
Oh, yeah. They're handling people's health, their well-being. It's a huge responsibility.
Huge responsibility.
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to think on your feet, too.
Right.
One minute you're calming down a nervous patient. The next you're meticulously labeling vials to go to the lab.
Yeah.
You've got to be adaptable.
So it sounds like it requires this balance of scientific know-how and being really good with people.
Right.
And on that note of mastering skills, what about the career path itself?
Okay.
I was surprised to learn that it's not just a one-size-fits-all kind of deal.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
There's actually room to grow and specialize. RoleCatcher outlines these different career stages,
Okay.
from entry level to junior to senior phlebotomist.
Yeah.
Each one has more responsibility as you move up.
Mhm.
And you can even specialize in things like pediatrics or geriatrics.
So you could start by nailing the basics, like venipuncture.
Right, the fancy word for drawing blood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you could work your way up to training new phlebotomists or even managing a whole lab.
So there's a whole ladder to climb there.
There is.
That's pretty cool.
And, of course, as you gain experience and certifications, you can expect to earn more, too. Makes sense.
Right, right.
Speaking of certifications, RoleCatcher mentioned a few that can boost your street cred.
Like what?
Things like the Certified Phlebotomy Technician, CPT,
Okay.
and the Certified Medical Assistant, or CMA.
Right, right. Those are the big ones.
Right. But it's not just about the letters after your name.
Right.
It's more than that. These certifications prove to everyone that you're committed to professional standards
Absolutely.
and that you're dedicated to providing top-notch patient care, which, let's face it, is everything in healthcare.
For sure.
Yeah.
It shows you're serious about your profession,
Yeah.
that you're in it for the long haul,
Yeah.
and always learning.
It's like saying, hey, I'm not just here to poke people with needles. I'm here to take care of you.
Exactly.
Right. And part of that means keeping up with the latest and greatest in the field.
Oh, 100%.
So it's not a static job. It's a dynamic, ever-changing career path. Okay, we've talked about robots drawing blood, the importance of having a good bedside manner. What else did RoleCatcher have to say about making it in this field?
Well, they actually got into some really practical advice, too, like how to ace those job interviews.
Oh, right. They had those sample interview questions, which is huge if you're serious about this kind of work.
It's like a sneak peek, right?
Yeah.
Behind the curtain of a job interview. Remember those real-world situations we talked about?
Right.
They had questions about those, too.
Oh, wow.
Like how to handle a tough patient, or what happens if someone has a bad reaction to a blood draw.
Which is something you got to be ready for.
Totally. One question that really stuck with me was, how do you deal with a patient who's afraid of needles? I mean, talk about a common fear, right?
It's like everyone's afraid of needles,
Right.
to some degree.
It made me realize you have to be pretty emotionally aware to be a phlebotomist.
You really do. You need to understand people, calm them down, build that trust,
Right.
and it all happens in like 5 minutes.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Like you're part phlebotomist, part therapist.
Yeah.
And speaking of those tricky situations, what happens if someone does have a bad reaction to a blood draw? Those situations might not happen all the time, but sounds like you'd have to be prepared.
You do. RoleCatcher really stressed that.
Yeah.
You have to stay calm. You got to know the signs of a bad reaction. Things like dizziness, maybe they faint, even allergic reactions. And of course, you got to know the safety procedures like the back of your hand.
Right. And they said you need to know basic life support, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
BLS. You might have to jump in and help in an emergency. Maybe even give first aid while you're waiting for the paramedics to get there.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Wow. It really shows how much responsibility comes with the job.
Yeah, it's a lot. Every single thing you do matters. Every procedure, every interaction, you've got to be on top of it.
Right.
And that goes double for labeling and keeping track of those samples. Accuracy is everything.
Oh, for sure. I imagine even a tiny little mistake labeling a vial could have huge consequences.
Oh, absolutely. I'm talking misdiagnosis, wrong treatment, wrong medication, you name it.
Right.
It's a domino effect.
Yeah. It's like those vials are more than just blood. It's someone's health, their well-being, their trust in the whole system, right?
Exactly. And that focus on accuracy, it's not just about labeling.
Right.
It's patient ID, proper documentation.
And RoleCatcher mentioned HIPAA too.
Oh, right. Huge.
Protecting patient privacy.
So important. Think about it. A phlebotomist is looking at tons of confidential medical records.
Yeah.
They're like the guardians of that information.
Protecting it, making sure it's only shared with the right people.
100%. Okay, let's switch gears for a sec. Remember how we talked about always learning?
Oh, yeah.
RoleCatcher was really big on that. It's crucial for growing your career.
It's not like you just get that one certification and you're done.
Right.
Yeah.
Nope, not at all. The best phlebotomists never stop learning. Healthcare is always changing.
Oh, for sure.
New tech, new procedures, new research popping up all the time. You snooze, you lose.
You got to be ready to adapt.
Absolutely.
They mentioned conferences, workshops, even subscribing to those industry magazines to stay in the loop.
It's about taking charge of your own career,
Yeah.
Networking with other phlebotomists.
Right.
Learning from the best, staying ahead of the curve.
And if you're ambitious,
Yeah.
it could be your ticket to moving up that career ladder we talked about.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And RoleCatcher had some interesting insights into what those paths might look like.
Oh, yeah. What did they say?
Well, you usually start as an entry-level phlebotomist, right? Then you move up to junior phlebotomist as you gain more skills, more responsibility, more independence.
And then with enough experience, the right qualifications, you could end up a senior phlebotomist. Maybe even manage a whole team or lab department.
Exactly. And let's not forget about specializing.
Oh, right.
Some folks might really focus in on a particular area like pediatrics or maybe working with the elderly, or even just becoming the go-to person for those really tough blood draws.
So there's room to move up and branch out.
Absolutely.
That's really interesting. It's not just a one-track path. Now, of course, we can't talk careers without talking about the big S word. Salary.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher didn't give us any hard number.
Right.
But they did say your experience, where you live, certifications, even the type of facility you work at, all that plays a role.
Makes sense.
Like working in a big city hospital is probably going to pay differently than a small clinic out in the country.
Totally. But they emphasize that continuing education and going for those advanced certs, that can really boost your earning power.
So investing in those new skills, pays off in the long run,
Big time.
both for your career and your wallet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And beyond the money, think about the sense of purpose you get.
Right.
Knowing you're making a real difference in people's lives. It's not just a job.
It's about doing something that matters,
Yeah.
finding that purpose in your work.
Yes. If you're into medicine, fascinated by how the body works,
Yeah.
and you want a job that's both challenging and rewarding, phlebotomy might be your thing.
Right. It's this perfect mix of scientific know-how
Absolutely.
and genuine human connection.
Yeah.
And as technology keeps advancing, who knows what kind of cool new things are on the horizon for aspiring phlebotomists.
Maybe one day we'll have those painless virtual blood draws you were talking about.
Right.
But for now,
Yeah.
it sounds like a career with a really bright future.
Yeah.
And you know what? RoleCatcher didn't just give us the basics. They actually pointed us to some external resources, too.
Right. It's like they were giving us homework or something, in a good way,
Right.
to really dive deeper.
Yeah, like they rolled out the red carpet for anyone who's serious about this career. We're talking links to the Center for Phlebotomy Education,
Right.
the International Federation of Biomedical Laboratory Science,
Ugh.
even the American Society for Clinical Pathology.
That's amazing. I mean, what kind of stuff can you actually find on these websites?
Oh, it's a gold mine.
Yeah.
Certification requirements, what's happening in the industry, the latest research, even new techniques for drawing blood.
So whether you're just curious about blood work or you're a pro who wants to stay sharp, these sites have you covered.
Totally. Oh, and they have forums and networking groups, too.
Oh, cool.
You can connect with other phlebotomists, share stories, learn from each other, like a community, you know?
I love that.
For people passionate about veins and vials.
It's like a club.
Yeah.
For people who aren't afraid of needles.
Exactly. You might even present your own research at a conference one day, you know?
Oh, wow.
Share what you've learned and inspire the next group of phlebotomists.
That's really cool. Okay, so we covered a lot. We talked about what it's like to be a phlebotomist, the skills you need, how to move up, salary stuff.
I think we got it all. RoleCatcher really delivered.
They did. They painted a picture of a career that's kind of hidden, but so important to how healthcare works.
Totally.
And it's more than just drawing blood. You're making people feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
You're a scientist getting those accurate results.
Yes.
And you're always learning and growing.
It's a career that needs both that really precise technical side
Yeah.
and that genuine compassion for people.
It's that human connection, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like we saw, there's room to grow. You can specialize and you really can make a difference.
Totally. So if you're into medicine, if you're curious about the human body, and you want a job that challenges you,
Right.
but is also really rewarding, phlebotomy might be calling your name.
It just might. And hey, remember, RoleCatcher's got your back with all those resources
Yeah.
to help you explore, get prepared, and really succeed.
They gave us the map.
They did.
Now it's up to you to start the journey. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those questions.
Keep those veins nice and plump.